So, nothing happened here this week. How about you, Dwayne?
Such a quiet week.
It has been a quiet week. I think everybody at Cyber just decided to shut their computers off.
Oh, yeah. Well, wait. I thought I heard about something in Eastern Europe.
Nah,
Maybe.
Nothing's going on over there.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's what they'd
Just
like
kidding.
you to think. That's what they'd like you to think.
Right. Don't look here.
Oh, it's
Everything's
terrible.
fine.
We'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yes, we will.
So, yeah, Ukraine is obviously in the news, and as it relates to security, it's also in the news. But we're going to leave that story until the end, right, guys?
Yeah, because otherwise it'll be the whole show.
Right.
Honestly, there's a lot of important things that need patching this week in light of what's going on worldwide. So we want to go over some of those things as well.
If losing money in your business wasn't incentive enough to patch, maybe what's going on in the world will be incentive. So let's start with our favorite target, WordPress.
I knew you'd start there.
Oh,
so
WordPress.
WordPress is trying to do the right thing, and they're forcing an install of a patch on 3 million sites. Even if you have your configuration set to not auto patch, too bad. If they can get to you, you're going to get patched.
Somebody's going to get mad about that.
Well, it happens. It's something that, we don't have time to wait. It's too big of a thing. This is probably good news. But it's not good news because it keeps WordPress in the news as a platform that is very Swiss cheesy.
Yeah, and for those of you who are wondering what this is the Updraft Plus plugin. So it has a vulnerability. You can get access to data, yada yada yada, that sort of stuff. And we'll post a link on it. But a bigger question, Patrick and Carl. So taking what's happening globally, which we'll talk about. Do you think it's better that a company take a stance of, we're just going to force a patch on you?
Absolutely.
As opposed to we're going to give you the right to manage or not manage your own systems.
Well, it depends. Microsoft tried that and then forced a patch that broke other things, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
You've got to be right. If you're going to do this, you have to be right.
But I don't know that you can be right 100% of the time, right?
Well, you take your chances. I mean,
that brings us to a new segment that we're calling Vocabulary Word of the Day. Today's word is foist.
Foist.
Foist. To impose an unwelcome or unnecessary person or thing on, as in, don't let anyone foist inferior goods on you.
It's patches.
It's a word that I've heard quite a lot in the news in the last few years, and it's a great word. I love this word.
Some people would say that WordPress was foisted on them by their web developer.
Yeah, that's right. WordPress itself.
I doubt most companies that have WordPress in their environment said, I want to use WordPress because I heard it's such a solid platform.
I think, you know what, Patrick? I'm going to say this. I'd say if there was a better platform out there,
I know.
It would have been.
I know.
It would have succeeded WordPress. Because honestly, I know we beat on WordPress a lot. And for all of you listeners who have WordPress sites, it's WordPress plugins. It's the massive store of add-ons that you can put. Actually, it's a very similar situation with your iPhone. Take an iPhone. If you were to never install an app on your iPhone, but just use what's on the iPhone, it's probably impossible to hack. But now add some random app from the store developed by some random guy in the middle of nowhere, and that's where you invite the risk. And it's the same thing here with plugins.
Well, fortunately, that the fact that we have an app store means that the companies, Google and Apple has done it from the very beginning. Google not so much from the beginning, but at some point they started, being very critical about and having strict standards and guidelines as to what the app can do and what it can't. And they're code reviewed, and sometimes hacks slip by them, but most of the times they don't.
So the things like Xenomorph won't ever happen? Oh, wait, we'll talk about that later.
They do happen, but
soon too.
But not as the blatant rip-off apps.
Yes.
Are
So coming back to this though. So you're a big company. You're Microsoft. You're Apple. You're whoever. Let's take Apple iPhones for example. A lot of people right now globally really concerned about, maintaining secure communications and that sort of stuff.
Right.
If there was a discovered O-Day being exploited out in the wild right now in an iPhone communications where we could read SMS or do whatever, should Apple force that patch on every phone connected to a network? Foist. Foist.
How many points do we get every time we use the word foist in a
It's a drinking game for me, and I'm already 3 in, so you guys better catch up.
What was that? Super Troopers with meow?
Oh. No, I just happen to be drinking a sugar-free electrolyte drink, but
I got coffee, black, shaken, not stirred. So, as a large vendor like Apple, do you have the right to force whatever code down you think is most secure?
Well, I don't
know.
Well, I mean, people vote with their feet. If you make the wrong decision in that regard, people will leave your platform. If you make the wrong decision in the other regard, like if you allow them to be like, why didn't you protect me from myself? There's some people who would be upset that you didn't.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a lose-lose situation.
It is. Yeah. Welcome to vendor. Welcome to being a vendor. Welcome to life, my friend.
Right. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Just by having an app installed on your phone that you went and installed. In fact, it happens all the time. There's nothing stopping the maker of that app from foisting a new version on you. And that new version may have ads that weren't in the first version. It may have more frequent ads. It may have features disabled that were free before, and now you have to pay for them. So app makers foist their updates on you. If Apple foisted a security patch, I would welcome it personally. They know more about that stuff than I do.
Yeah, honestly, I would too.
I, for one, welcome our alien overlords.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the alien versus the alien you don't. I would much rather have somebody at the helm whose job it is to weed out the wheat from the chaff.
Was it on Futurama? Kang for Emperor.
I mean, honestly, if Apple were to force updates on my iPhone, I would be okay with it. I don't even notice it sometimes. Like, if I'm not diligent about going into that settings area and seeing that there's an update, sometimes I don't even notice it. So I'd be happy if my phone just rebooted every once in a while because it was putting an update on there. Honestly, you should be rebooting your phone every week anyways. But
there's a thing called auto updates, so you can do that.
I have it turned on. It seems to download but doesn't apply them because I have malware running it on all the time, so it's busy.
Wait a minute. You have malware running on your phone all the time?
I think we all probably do. All.
I thought it was intentional malware. Oh, I'd like to install this malware because that's awesome.
Yeah,
and this malware is awesome. I want to watch this one for a while.
I want to see how it works.
I mostly use my phone as a phone, and so I don't think I'm too bad.
And I want to see you rocking the flip phone again, just to see.
Hey, don't tempt me.
So I saw Elton Brown in concert last night.
Is that like a cover band for Elton John?
He actually has a band. He plays guitar and sings. But it wasn't a music. It was, he basically said he's doing everything that he couldn't do on television, or he wasn't allowed to do, or allowed to talk about, or whatever. So it was part comedy, it was part stories. And one part of it, he was talking about when he was a kid, and you used to have a phone nook in the house because there was only one phone.
Yeah,
because there was. He's being very get off my lawn about it, right? He's like, we didn't need email. We went to the moon without email. And I just think it's funny that he's using email as sort of the example of high tech communications. Yeah. Anyway. So, should we talk about Expeditors?
Yeah, let's talk about Expeditors.
All right, so it's another ransomware attack, and Expeditors is the name of a freight forwarding company.
Well, this is another example of of an organization being attacked that 5 years ago would have been considered off limits. It wasn't off limits, and we just had the hope that hospitals and places like that wouldn't be attacked, and water treatment plants. But logistics, transport operations, people's lives could be, lost as a result of something that needs to arrive not arriving. medical equipment, things like that. So this is a big deal. They've actually shut down global operations after a ransomware attack. So the drum continues to beat.
This is a bleeping computer article, but I love the little section in the middle that says, hey, we were tipped off by an anonymous tip that this happened. It wasn't actually announced by Expeditors yet. And then right after that, it says, if you have firsthand information about this or any unreported cyber attacks, contact us confidentially on Signal.
And
we promise to keep it to ourselves.
Yeah.
Confidentially. Yeah.
That way nobody knows you're announcing a cyber attack. What's interesting is statistically, this is probably a Russian attack, right?
Yeah, most likely.
Most malware out there today is either running on a Russian platform, was Russian developed originally and then purchased, or is being operated by Russian, operatives. So it's just interesting that, that side of the business is still going,
so
good for them.
They start talking about Russia now.
Well, we got to keep that till the end, Patrick. I know you can't wait.
Keep it away.
Easy.
Rush.
Put down the guns, Patrick.
Russia.
No.
No.
Down, boy.
Carl rolls up the paper. I'm going to tell you, and this is a PSA for everybody who's listening to this show right now, which is probably going to be a couple days after. Don't click on anything. That's it.
Except if it's sent by Dwayne.
Especially
if it's sent by Dwayne.
I was going to say, if it's sent by me, you should double not click on it. Wait, double not click?
Hey, Carl,
double not
click on that link I just sent you. What are you kidding me?
I've done that before.
So actually, you have to share this story about this weekend. Or this week.
I don't know the weekend.
Let me do it. I can sensitize it. So we went to an event, and Dwayne and our guys ran into somebody who they had a great time talking to.
Who was an awesome guy.
And all they ended up having was his name. And they said, oh, we should have invited him to dinner. We're going out to dinner tonight. Let's see if we can invite him. So they didn't have his phone number. So of course we employed our dark
tactics
to locate his phone number. They found his phone number and his daughter's phone number for cells. And they called him and said, hey, we're going out to dinner. He went, oh yeah, I'd love to join you. And then he's like, how did you get my cell number? I didn't give you my cell number.
and then he's like, what's creepy after that is I said, yeah, I'd love to go out to dinner. That'd be great. He said, then my daughter texted me and was like, hey dad, there's these guys who want to go out to dinner with you. And he was like,
how did you get my
that's horrifying. He's like, now I need to make sure you guys are I at least talk to you. We're friends, right? We're friends.
Yeah. No serial killing between friends, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, just be super careful, be super diligent over the next, always, but honestly, over the next couple of months, you're going to see, I'm sure, influx. Yeah. Over the next always, an influx of just attempts at ransomware and attempts at running backdoors and exploiting systems and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So you want to be uber super duper careful and make sure you click on nothing.
Read the URLs where things come from.
Yep.
Read the
email. Don't open emails from anybody you don't know.
Yeah.
Don't open any invoices that you weren't expecting.
Mastercard.russiaplace.ru is not a MasterCard domain.
Mastercard.ru.
But it says MasterCard in the name.
But
yeah. Okay. All right. Xenomorph.
A
newly hatched banking Trojan. And first of all, I don't want to use a Trojan that was newly hatched, nor do I want to use it for banking. A Trojan has one purpose, and it's a purpose that I don't need to use anymore. So,
because Troy has fallen already?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I mean.
That Trojan.
Because this is a family friendly show.
So Xenomorph, for those of you who don't know, is the from the Aliens series. That's what they call them. Is Xenomorphs. Actually, have you guys ever read that entire line of books?
No. I did read major parts of it, but not all of it.
There's 9 or 10 books. They're awesome. They're really, really. It's cool to see how they all.
So the reason the alien from Aliens is a xenomorph is that whoever its host is, it takes on its characteristics.
Yes.
And so if it infected a cat instead of a person, it would be quadrupedal instead of bipedal.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So it's a
and there's
xenomorph.
your xenomorph knowledge.
And it would sit around the house thinking that it owned the place and ignore everything that you say to it.
Cough up fur balls.
Actually,
Cough
I'm
up
huge
alien
in
balls.
Oddly enough, not just computer tech and hacking, but I'm huge into board games, and I have a Xenomorph board game, which is interesting. You actually play through all of it's cooperative, and you play through all the scenarios in the movies.
Wow.
So you can play like
That's
Hadley's
super cool.
Hope and all that good stuff, which is really cool. But anyways, coming back to the Trojan.
Back to the banking Trojan.
Boop-a-doop boop. So this Trojan says, based on intelligence gathered, users in 56 different European banks, 56 different European banks are among targets of this new Android malware Trojan distributed on the official Google Play Store.
Hey, remember that thing I was telling you about the Play stores being really diligent about keeping malware off your phones? Yeah, that was bullcrap. Sorry.
Bang up job.
Bang up
job. Well, okay, I don't get this. I'm going to sidebar for a second. Google Project Zero is probably one of the best security zero-day discovering machines I've ever seen. These people are some of the best of the best of the best. Like every time you see a lot of new exploits coming out, security researchers, it's usually the Project Zero team. The guys are amazing, guys and gals are amazing at what they do. So this is what stuns me is when you see these guys who are on the forefront of discovering zero-day exploits and new malware variants and that sort of stuff. And then you have the store who's like, I don't know,
their backyard.
Right. It's like their cousin that nobody likes, and they're like, yeah, it's okay. Just take whatever app. We're not gonna really help you at all. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. In the Google ecosystem, you would think they'd all play nicely together and nobody would ever be able to get anything malicious.
I wonder if there's politics to bear and they're not allowed to snoop in their own backyard and they're just looking for dirty laundry for everyone else.
No, because maybe. But I'll tell you, the Google Project Zero team has found stuff in their own applications in Android and in Microsoft and in you name it.
Have they found anything in the store?
I don't know if they target the store.
Hey, can we talk about Xenomorph?
Hey, let's talk about Xenomorph. So, Google Play Store, there are more than 50,000 installations of this, and this is a banking Trojan.
So it's in a banking application, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's called Xenomorph because it takes on the characteristics of its host.
It comes from it's a descendant from Alien, which is
Alien is a malware.
Yeah. Okay. And so it's believed that it's probably developed by the people who brought you Alien.
Ooh.
Or somebody who knows the code really well, because what they're seeing in the field is an implementation that has lots of code and lots of logging, and some of the code's not active yet. So it's still in development. It's still it's an early version. There's more planned. Let's put it that way.
Well, what's interesting about this is it's not like you're downloading like the Bank of America application, right? It's like you're downloading one of the ones they found is called Fast Cleaner. Right, so it was an application aimed at just speeding up the device by removing unused clutter.
Oh my god!
Right, and removing and making your battery more optimized.
Who doesn't want that?
You remember the story about somebody who released an application? I can't remember for what phone, but it was something that was supposedly made it waterproof.
Oh my god!
Press the button. Okay, your iPhone is now waterproof, and then a bunch of people
went swimming with it
by going swimming with it, and then it completely destroyed the phones.
Yeah. Did they get their money back for that free app?
No,
for that free app. I'm just kidding.
So,
money back guarantee for this free app.
Yeah,
I think they voided the warranty for their phone, though.
So what's interesting about this one is this one's another overlay. So it says the main sort of vector of the attack is an overlay stealing credentials, SMS notifications, and 2FA, right? So What's an overlay? It's something that can run on top of the existing application. So when you open your banking app, right, and you go to type in your username and password, and then you get texted your 2FA, and then you type that in, this overlay picks that up. Right, exactly. So it has the ability to, and then send that all back to their command and control servers and that sort of stuff. So be careful. Be careful of random applications you have on your phone. Honestly, good cyber hygiene for your phone is A, if there are apps you're not using, remove them.
And B, don't install an app unless you have an idea of its provenance.
Yep, and reboot
Next
your
week's
phone
word.
Once a week.
Provenance.
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 Provenance, which means
Providence is a city near Carl.
Provenance.
That's the story, the backstory. The history of this thing. Where did it come from?
Yes. It's lineage,
not province, which is entirely different.
Yeah. Okay.
So, if you have extra applications or applications on your phone you're not using, remove them. If you don't know the background, what rights are being requested for an app,
right,
and you're not comfortable with them, don't install it. If you don't know the company and or individual developing that app, I wouldn't install it. And just once a week, I would definitely reboot your phone. That'll make you more secure than most.
Okay.
And the only thing better than that would be to switch to iPhone.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he's not kidding.
Unfortunately, that is actually a really good one.
All right. Yeah. So modified CryptBot info stealer being distributed. What's that all about?
Oh, the crypto bot. So this is something I wanted to bring to everybody's attention because we're just seeing a lot more of the crypto mining, but now we're seeing a lot more of the crypto wallet stealing. Because as crypto becomes more mainstream, more people have a wallet. The malware is taking the chance that they're going to infect someone and they'll have a wallet and they can just steal all the crypto out of it.
Oh, right.
So if you have an app on your iPhone or your Android or any device actually, and the device gets infected, then you can probably say goodbye to anything that's in that wallet because they'll just move it to another wallet and move it, 18 times, put it through washers, and you'll never see it again.
Yeah, and what's tough here, though, is a majority of this CryptBot info stealer is deployed through stolen software. So if you don't want to pay for Adobe or you don't want to pay for, some
You'll pay for
software. Yeah, exactly. You could either pay Adobe or you could pay the ransomware stealing guys because you're going to go to some site that's on the internet. And of course it looks shady because you're doing a shady thing by downloading software and not paying the vendor.
Right.
And sure enough, most of that is now infected with a piece of malware that could steal information. And that's always been a risk, honestly.
Yeah, anytime you get something, script kiddies infect themselves all the time trying to get scripts to run to go after other people. It's just very common.
Right. Well, and this is like, take something like Adobe Photoshop. Let's say you wanted to download an old copy of Adobe Photoshop and run it that doesn't require a serial number. Mm-hmm. That some reverse engineer who's smart enough to go into the Adobe setup package and strip out the serial number checker has modified that package.
Yeah.
So there's literally no limit to what they could do in there. Yeah.
Right. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Okay.
Internet software.
So I think we should talk about the big news of the day now.
What's that? I don't know what you're talking about.
Microsoft's doing a great job at patching. All right. Have a nice day. No.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Have a good one.
No. So by the time this goes to air, which will be in a few days, today is Thursday, the 24th at 2:35
right.
p.m. on West Coast time because I'm traveling this week. So it could be different, but I'll take a chance and I'll prognosticate a little bit. I'll predict.
Okay.
I think that either Russia will go through and roll up and I don't think they'll have an easy time of it, but it's possible. It's possible they'll just outgun and there won't be an extended battle. I think that's unlikely, but it's possible. If that happens, then there'll be sanctions, there'll be recriminations, but Europe needs their gas and oil. They've already, prepared themselves for sanctions. They're hard to punish. It's like having a kid with no friends who doesn't like to leave their room trying to punish them. unless you're willing to beat them up, which we're not willing to beat up Russia. They're just difficult to punish. So Russia is difficult for the West to punish. What's more likely, I think, is that Ukraine is the largest country in Europe, geography-wise. It's bigger than France.
Yeah.
And they are not bad fighters at all. So they're not a pushover. And so what we could see is this is going to be a protracted war with an insurgency, and Russia is going to bleed. And if that happens, then it could weaken Putin's hold at home. It could lead to many, many deaths. It's a bad road no matter what happens.
Right.
But this will be a turning point very likely for Putin's Russia. And it may even lead to the end of Putin's Russia, and it becomes something else afterwards. I hope it's minimal. I hope, they find a way to stop it. But I think now that it's in motion, it's not going to stop.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's very good to hear your thoughts about that, because since, you think about these things a lot more than the rest of us do.
Way too much.
Yeah.
So on that sobering, narrative and thought, we're faced with the fact that Russia has one of its primary exports is ransomware.
Yeah.
And I don't think I think they're going to make up for all of their other exports diminishing by sending more ransomware out. I don't think it's going to go down.
So you think that the sanctions aren't going to hurt them as much as we think they are, because they can just go hijack any computer in the world and
That's a good question, because it's possible. That's how North Korea funds itself. But I don't think Russia can make enough money. I mean, Russia would have to triple all the ransomware in the world to put a serious dent, because they're a multi-trillion-dollar economy.
Well, they're also fighting the war with Ukraine with cyber attacks, right?
Yes, they have.
And so this is our last story. Ukraine computers hit by data wiping software as Russia launched the invasion. And we talked about data wiping software as opposed to killware as opposed to ransomware, right?
Yeah. And sometimes it even pretends to be ransomware to add insult to injury. So you have to pay to then find out your data's already gone.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we had reported on this when first tensions started to arise between Russia and Ukraine, I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago at this point, or where it seemed like there were a couple sites that were hit. And I think those were probably early variants of what they've massively deployed for denial of service and wiping attacks for the Ministry of Defense, Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Internal Affairs. All of those are now getting hit with these wiper attacks. It's interesting to watch these things from a cyber perspective, because you can definitely see Russia was telegraphing the punch. And really, if you take a look historically at all massive sort of cyber attacks, you see the same exact patterns where, different types of bots or different types of malware are just getting, just invented or prepared to be used in a massive strike. And then if you start taking a look at small infections first, and it's just them testing to see how well that works.
So side story, I have a friend from Kyiv. I think I told you guys last week. And I reached out to him to see, what does he think of all this? And of course, he's not happy about it. But even more so, his wife's mother is 80 years old and living in that region that is being invaded right now by herself. And there's no way they can get her out. And there's no way they can get in. And so I
don't think the Russians are going to try to decimate the territory. They want to turn Ukraine into a satellite country the way Belarus is right now. They want it to be intact. They want it to have an economy. They want to have empire again. That's what Putin really wants.
He said it himself.
Right. He wants an empire. He wants that empire back. So that means he doesn't want to destroy it. But there isn't the unity between the Ukrainians and the Russians that he says there is. He claims, I saw a very interesting photo where after Putin made an announcement about how, Russia invented Ukrainian society. Russia was the founder of Ukrainian society. And it showed a picture of these churches in Kiev and the years they were built and it showed pictures of the forest that Moscow was at the time these churches were all built, because Moscow, it wasn't a city back at that time. And so I don't think they're going to fall in line. They're not as well equipped military. They're not as big militarily, but they're not, they're on their home turf. I think it's going to be a long, grinding war. I don't know. It's a bad situation all around.
Yeah. And it also means, to bring it back to computer security, that we need to be even way more diligent than we have been in the past, because, especially if we, the United States, gets more and more involved in, and, our European allies, all of our allies, most of the world is, is a target from Russia.
Yeah.
So we all have to be more diligent about keeping ourselves patched and, listening to Security This Week, sending off the URLs to your friends. Say, hey,
we're preaching
guys
to
are
the
silly,
choir,
but you should listen to them.
People are listening. We appreciate it,
yes.
But we're trying to do our part by spreading the good word. Please keep spreading it.
Yeah, and absolutely, all of the U.S. Cyber agencies like CISA and that sort of stuff over the last 24 hours have gone into hyperdrive, just saying like everybody needs to patch what they have. Everybody needs to be making sure that they're not clicking on things, because it's not a far stretch to think that as a preemptive attack, Russia may start sending a lot of malware this way just to make a point. Hey, don't get involved in this conflict.
Well, and as retaliation for sanctions are going to be something that's going to happen for a while. And so Russia, misery loves company. Russia's going to love to share the wealth.
Right. Well, and you could definitely, I could see that being a strategy. I agree with you 100%. Like, hey, listen, you're going to sanction us? Fine. We'll just keep pulling even more billions of dollars out of your economy through ransomware.
Yeah, but I don't know that the ransomware gangs in Russia are really that closely associated. I think they operate with impunity, but I don't think they're paying kickbacks to the GRU or to the Kremlin directly.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe I'm just a conspiracy theorist, but you take a look at, like, even if I were to look at the CISA website right now, just yesterday. Joint Cybersecurity Advisory, new sandworm malware Cyclops blink replacer VPN filter, and they go through a whole bunch of new pieces of malware that came out yesterday. Just seems the timing seems weird.
Yeah.
Like, hey, they enter into a conflict, and then some random gang decides they're going to throw malware out there. I don't know. So yeah, just patch. It's interesting, but for everybody who's listening, absolutely make sure you patch. Make sure you're careful what you click on.
Yeah.
Because over the next couple of weeks, it's important.
And hopefully next week's show will be a little bit, we'll have some better news for you.
Lighter. I hope so. I don't know. One last thing. If Putin wanted to weaken NATO, he had exactly the opposite effect.
Yeah, I agree.
NATO hasn't been this united since the fall of the Berlin Wall.
I agree with that, Patrick. All right. Well, have a good week, y'all, and we'll see you next time.
And if you're listening to this from anywhere near the conflict zone, good luck, and
our hearts are with you.
We're thinking about you.
And next week, tell me how I did on my prognostications.
It'll be really interesting to see if any of your predictions come true.
Smart people don't make predictions.
Okay.
Wow.
Your musings, then.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
I'm admitting I'm not smart. It's just I shouldn't have made any predictions.
All right. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, guys.